Thanks for watching Endgame Economics. If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. It's completely free for you, and it helps us continue making more videos like this.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to our explainer on one of the most critical, yet honestly deeply misunderstood dynamics in the world right now. The myth of absolute economic leverage between Washington and Beijing in 2026. We constantly hear about one side having this ultimate upper hand over the other. But today we're going to look under the hood at the actual mechanics of this relationship. And what we'll find is that every single economic weapon in this rivalry comes with a very steep and often completely hidden cost. Picture yourself sitting in a high-level policy meeting, whether that's in Washington or Beijing. You'll inevitably hear these really dramatic statements thrown around. Someone will confidently say, well, if China sells U.S. bonds, America is in trouble. Then someone else chimes in, yeah, but if America blocks chips, China is in trouble. And then a third voice adds, if the U.S. freezes dollar access, the whole world is going to get the message. Now, on paper, these hypothetical options sound incredibly powerful. They create this illusion that clean, one-sided leverage actually exists in modern geopolitics. But the reality is way messier. Every single one of these actions comes with a severe structural problem. So the crucial point here isn't asking who has more leverage. The real question we need to ask is, can either side use its leverage without damaging its own position? And in this deeply connected global network, the answer is almost always no. Every major tool creates intense pressure on the other side, sure, but it simultaneously creates immense risk for the side actually using it. It's the ultimate double-edged sword. Every aggressive action triggers a very costly reaction.
So here is our roadmap to unpack these pressure points today. We'll be going through 1. The global financial traps. 2. The tech and resource war. 3. The manufacturing marriage. 4. The consumer market trap. And finally, 5. Power without clean victory. Let's get right into it.
Starting with Section 1, the global financial traps, Treasuries and the dollar. This is the macroeconomic bedrock of global debt. You've probably heard the dramatic claim that China could just sell off all its U.S. debt to crush the American economy, right? But think about what happens if Beijing actually tried to sell a massive amount of U.S. Treasuries rapidly. They'd face immediate blowback. First, the market reacts, Treasury prices fall, and suddenly the value of China's own remaining holdings absolutely plummets. They would literally be destroying the value of their own portfolio. Second, the resulting market stress could actually strengthen the US dollar in the short term, which ends up hurting China's export economy by moving the yuan in a really unfavorable direction. So sure, they can reduce their exposure slowly, but attempting to weaponize it quickly, that's just financial self-sabotage. But hey, let's balance the scales and look at the US dollar. It is the absolute center of the global financial system, giving Washington enormous power. But here's the catch. That system entirely depends on global trust. If Washington overuses financial sanctions or aggressively freezes dollar access, that trust erodes. Fast. Every time the US flexes this muscle, nations all around the world start asking themselves, wait, are our own reserves actually safe? This directly pushes other countries to buy more gold, explore local currency trade settlements, and slowly but surely build alternative payment systems. The dollar's power is strongest when it's trusted, not when everyone feels forced to go look for the nearest exit.
Moving to Section 2, the tech and resource war, rare earths and semiconductors. Let's shift from finance to the physical and digital battlegrounds.
So China totally dominates rare earth processing. And these materials are vital for everything. We're talking electric vehicles, advanced defense systems, the whole shebang. This is real leverage, but watch this cycle. Step 1, China restricts exports of materials like gallium. Step 2, in response, the US, Europe, Japan, and other allies get spooked and start investing heavily in their own alternative mining and refining capacity. It takes time, and yeah, it takes serious capital, but step 3, ultimately China's monopoly fundamentally weakens over time. The weapon is honestly best used as a threat, because actually firing it just speeds up global diversification. And we see this exact same action-reaction loop with US semiconductor controls. America has a massive lead in advanced AI chips, relying on companies like NVIDIA and manufacturing giants like TSMC. So, Washington blocks China's access to slow down their AI and military development. Makes sense, right? But what's the unintended consequence? China aggressively accelerates its own domestic chip ecosystem. Government funds pour in, and companies like Huawei and SMIC push toward rapid self-reliance. At the exact same time, American firms lose massive revenue from one of the world's largest tech markets. It's a real catch-22. If America sells freely, China advances. But if America blocks too much, China just builds its own ecosystem even faster.
All right, Section 3, the manufacturing marriage, demystifying decoupling. Politicians really love to throw around the slogan of decoupling, but economic reality tells a completely different story.
China's manufacturing ecosystem is what economists call incredibly sticky. And we aren't just talking about cheap assembly lines anymore. We are talking about unbelievably deep supplier networks, massive port infrastructure, highly skilled labor, specialized industrial zones, and factories that can literally source components and rapid tool almost overnight. So a giant like Apple might shift some final assembly to India or Vietnam, sure. But many of those components and tooling relationships, they still run right back through China. It's called hidden rerouting. The supply chain becomes a little less visible, but not necessarily less dependent. You just can't pack up and leave this kind of ecosystem overnight.
Section 4. The Consumer Market Trap. Mutual Dependence. Transitioning from the factory floor to the global shopping mall.
The mutual dependence here is honestly staggering. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is you have these deeply reliant American giants, Apple, Tesla, Starbucks, depending heavily on Chinese consumers for massive, massive chunks of their global revenue. But right alongside them, you have the aggressive rise of local champions. Huawei is directly challenging Apple, BYD is going toe-to-toe with Tesla, even domestic sportswear and coffee brands are gaining serious local loyalty at the expense of foreign brands. And that leads us to the ultimate trap. Every step toward separation actually makes domestic competitors stronger at home and abroad. Think about it. When US-China relations worsen, Chinese consumers have even more of a cultural reason to support their domestic companies. And once companies like BYD or Huawei dominate at home, they don't just stop there, right? They expand globally into Europe, Latin America, Southeast Asia. The crazy irony here is that the more Washington pushes for a split, the more it inadvertently fuels the global expansion ambitions of these Chinese competitors. Finally, Section 5, Power Without Clean Victory, the 2026 reality. When you synthesize all of this, it brings us to a pretty sobering assessment of what this complex web of leverage actually means for the reality of 2026. While investors and the public are definitely going to continue to see dramatic, fiery headlines from major summits, the reality looks much, much more practical. What's the real playbook? Well, you're going to see targeted, very specific concessions on things like agricultural trade or critical minerals. You'll see incremental, slow supply chain diversification. You will absolutely hear continued loud political statements, but what you will not see is a clean break or full decoupling. Neither side is going to fully sever this relationship because both have learned the absolute hardest way possible. Having economic leverage does not equal having economic control. The global economy is just a highly, highly sensitive network. When the two biggest players pull too hard, everyone, everywhere feels the tension. Both sides are incredibly powerful for sure, but both are also incredibly exposed. So I want to leave you with this final thought. The next time you read a headline claiming one side has all the leverage or that one side can simply crush the other economically, ask yourself this one question. What happens after they use it? Because in this deeply connected world, the most powerful weapons are the ones that can only be used very, very carefully. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped clear up the reality behind the headlines.